Welcome, one and all, right back to the LCS Challengers League, presented by Subway. I'm Mazel, I'm joined by Joshi, and we have a heckin' day of action ahead of us. We say goodbye to two of our teams in the spring playoffs.
And I don't think it's a set of teams that we were necessarily expecting to say goodbye to this early. I'm sure, as you guys saw previously, we have had a lot of upsets going into this spring 2024 playoffs going through, and we might be in store for even more of them today.
And the crazy part is even though they're not facing each other, there's some maybe rivalries in this lower bracket for having gotten here in the first place. I want to go ahead and take a look at that bracket because I think it has been an important facet of our league itself. The Fearless Draft has really had an impact. I feel like in the playoffs, we've seen a lot more unique picks as well, but it's also been a point where teams could take advantage of that, and that I feel like is a big reason why we find some big-name teams down in the lower bracket.
Yeah, we have definitely heard from a lot of the people, especially on Team Liquid, that they thought the lower half of the bracket was way more stacked than the upper half of the bracket. And that's part of why we see Team Liquid challengers all the way in winners bracket finals, where teams like Supernova went out in the 2 rounds. They did not have a chance to showcase exactly how strong they were becoming. This was a team that was able to take FlyQuest challengers down during the regular season. But now we got to look at the fact that Maryville, the team that just beat them, is also fighting for their lives for the rest of the tournament.
That feels really bad for Supernova to have found Maryville in the first round of the lower bracket there, but you got to go through every opponent if you can. And yeah, we've seen some big names bow out, but today might even be a big kicker to that. But the thing is, all these teams, all of this stress, all this pressure, it's all building to a live finals at the LCS arena, and all these players want to make it there, right? That is a huge difference. We've talked to players before. We've heard from them personally that being in person, being able to play with your team, and being able to play in an environment like the LCS arena, it is another level.
It really is. It's one thing to pop off in your Discord call. It's another thing entirely to be able to slap your partner on the back and say, yeah, good job. We did that. Let's get ready for the next game. And so if you want to be able to be part of that action, make sure you check out the link below. It's also on X, formerly known as twitter.com at Path2LCS, where we will have all the details there for you to pick up tickets for yourself. They're only $5. It doesn't even cost a boba for people who live here in LA.
And we also get to show off some new awards, which will be a lot of fun. And if you want to be firsthand for those, you definitely want to be there. Again, also, if you want to add another $5, you can sub to this channel, and proceeds do go to the team. So make sure you do both. Go get your ticket and subscribe to the channel. But let's go ahead and look at those banger matchups that we have today and what is on the line. DSG versus AOE and Fear versus MU. A best of 3 separates you from a season end and a continued road down the lower bracket.
Yeah, and we definitely would have looked at this one, especially the second matchup, as one that had a very clear favorite going into playoffs, but now maybe not as much. Whereas the other one, we also got to see Disguise versus AOE, our first matchup of the day. These guys played each other in Week 8. We actually have a recent history between these two teams, and Disguise did come out of that one on top.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I think Disguise would have wanted to clean that one up a little bit more, but it was definitely a back-and-forth series. AOE gave it to them. This is the Disguise roster we'll be representing today. Some big names that maybe didn't have the finish of the regular season they wanted, but when we talked to these guys, they felt the entire time that they were scaling into the playoffs.
And in particular, Manui and Poom, the bottom lane for Disguise, have been probably the biggest players that we have seen scaling. Everybody else was looking all right, but Manui and Poom found their stride right when they needed it. They were able to take a game off of FlyQuest Challengers and then take down Wildcard immediately after. And this is not something that we were expecting from AOE at all. If they can continue to have the same kind of success in their bottom lane here, this will be a very different story. And I realized I was looking at the wrong team. It was Maryville that they took down, and Manui and Poom able to beat up Scary Jerry and Zyko significantly helped out their chances.
And you wonder with some of those big names, are they going to be able to make a splash? Because maybe some not-so-known names to the upper levels, but area of effect, they are represented in kind with Tier 2 talent. And a lot of other big names, I'd say Rose Thorn, Wixie Breezy, probably the bigger ones. But Zamudo, Onat, I feel like have had a resurgence this split. Onat's no longer just the Orianna Victor. We have a lot of different plays being made by Zamudo and a lot of love being given to him by players throughout the league. I think this team might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, but they have a big task ahead of them today.
They really have. We really look at Wixie as the person that we always talk about, revenge arcs, but this is the entire team needing to come together at this moment in order to take down the defending champions in disguise, and also a team that they lost to during the regular season, like we said. So, it's going to depend a lot on how these people are feeling on the day, and I definitely look at Wixie and Breezy as some of our biggest X factors for this team.
Yeah, I think bot lane is going to be our primary focus here. A lot of stories to be told between the two. I know Wixie and Breezy are very happy to be back together, reunited after some time away, but Wixie has been on his revenge arc. We'll see if that continues today. Feels like the revenge arc has been going on for a long time now. But I think last time we got to see these two teams together, my fun focus was definitely top side of the map. The amount of solo kills we had traded back and forth. I know Tenacity had a little bit had Zamudo's number, but we'll see if Zamudo can maybe get a bit of a revenge arc his own as we head off into game number 1. This is the draft. DSG are on the blue side. We have AOE on the red side. We'll see exactly what the bans come out to. A lot of bot lane focus is what I'm expecting.
Oh, for sure. And we also got to give a little praising in chat here for Zamudo in particular. He's had a lot of internet issues over the past several series that he's had, also in his solo queue game. So hopefully we will not be plagued by those pauses today. But this is definitely something where, looking across both these squads, it feels fairly evenly matched to me based on how they were playing throughout playoffs and during the regular season. The big difference, though, is the bottom lanes for these two teams have not had consistency throughout the regular season. They've only really found it here in playoffs, and both of these teams are really going to be relying on their bottom lanes in order to find some of their wins here. If you can find an advantage here where you would not have previously expected one, that can be a huge difference maker in their games.
Oh yeah, and speak about momentum as well, just kind of carrying that into the next. But we have some particular lane focuses now. The Kalista ban towards Wixie to take away some of that 2v2 prowess that they can have. The Rumble also towards Zamudo, so some very comfort bans being targeted by DSG. On the other side, kind of just the scaling bot lanes being taken away from Manui. You also got the Senna and the Smolder.
Yeah, and you have to remember that on this tournament, we are patch locked to 14.5. I know a lot of people are used to seeing us play on the live patch, which did just come out last night, but Senna and Smolder are still very good on 14.5, even if they're basically unplayable on 14.6. So we will continue to see these guys throughout the rest of the tournament. Yeah, unfortunately, Smolder is a shadow of his former self, but a LeBlanc ban is probably the most interesting one to see coming out in this draft. It is very much saying that they are trying to limit what it is that Young can do in this game, but it does feel as though most of the major things in the bottom lane that have been huge threats have been taken away, and it means that Karma is going to be the first pick coming out here for Disguise, as we know that Ona has been having some success with the champion.
I love that we had the kind of mini tease of the Young Akali there, but also the LeBlanc ban towards Young, I think very rightfully done. But this also means more of a supported play for Young. I think Karma obviously gets to a point where she does ridiculous damage, but you're really trying to connect with Perry, and that has been a strength of DSG. Perry has been very vocal about that. He wants to be a leader, he wants to lead the charge, and Young right behind him, that'll be really strong at least. The Ahri is the first lock-in at least for AOE.
Yeah, it makes me think that Rosethorn likely to go with something like the Vi in order to get that guaranteed lockdown that has been a very powerful combination, but it's very likely to run into something like the Karma and the Xin Zhao, and then it just becomes an all-out brawl throughout a lot of these fights. In Disguise, I feel like they have a really strong position with this early pick Karma, and that's part of why AoE is deviating right away. They don't feel as though they're comfortable necessarily taking that 2v2, and they want to have the option to throw this rel into the jungle or in the bot lane.
Rosethorn likes his mounted champions, the Rel, the Sejuani, having a good time on those, but also not necessarily going with the tried and true combos with the Ahri, the Vi still available, things like that, but wanting to go with that big lockdown and a lot of presence at least. The Xin Zhao is immediately locked in for DSG.
Yeah, I really like this Karma because it makes your draft plan, relatively straightforward, but also very good, right? It's a draft plan that just generally works, and seeing this Renekton up in the top lane is something that Tenacity has loved playing, this split in particular, and it gives you another tool. If the Xin Zhao falls, your Renekton is still going strong. If the Renekton falls, you still have the Xin Zhao in the first place, and so AOE are looking to have a bit of a problem, but one of the favorite things for Zamudo for a long time has been this Cho'Gath. Now, it's not gotten the most recent buffs on 14.6, but instead they are also going to go over to the Aatrox. A little bit more boring, but also gives Zamudo a little bit more playmaking opportunities on this champion.
I'm just glad it's not Cassante, man. I've been keeping up with LPL, they just like first pick Renekton every game and then always try to pick Cassante into it, and Renekton just dumpsters him. And so I really am glad we get to actually see Zabuto pick out the Aatrox. It's a little bit different, but the Renekton presence has risen through the roof, right? That is something we definitely were looking at for both these two top laners as a prio pick for them, and blue side's going to be king in that regard, it feels like.
Yeah, it definitely creates a situation where I feel as though Tenacity, if he has the same confidence he has always had, is going to be in a position where he can kind of push Zamudo around, partly because of the matchup, but also because whenever you're playing with bad ping, at least everybody that I know will play a little bit more timid, a little bit overly cautious, and that is not a way that you can effectively play against Renekton. You need to know when you can challenge him when his abilities are down, and we'll be paying a lot of attention to how Zamudo does choose to play that lane. With all that said, we got to shift our attention towards the bottom side of the map. It doesn't feel as though Kog'Maw has really made the same kind of waves here in the Challengers League as I was expecting him to, but taking away the Lulu does limit his ability to come through, and it's been a lot of supportive bans, especially trying to make sure that this Rel does not go to the bottom lane.
Yeah, try to take away all the engagers from DSG, specifically as well for AOE. I love that focus. I think the Rakan Nautilus bans towards Poom really rightfully done. His prowess on being the engager for the team has been a big staple for them, at least. The Lulu into the Lucian focus there for DSG, so some more focus towards Wixie. Another aggressive 2v2 pick, so we obviously see what DSG don't want to fight into.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You want to make sure that you have an opportunity. Manui is generally known for playing more supportive bottom laners, ones that are not necessarily going to be getting the most attention from the rest of his team. And by taking away some of these more aggressive options, it does allow Manui to play a lot of these rather effectively. And Wixie going to be grabbing the Zeri for themselves. Now, this champion is going to have mixed results in this game, right? You're already looking at the fact that DSG has this very strong front line, but the front line is also functionally immune to damage for the first half of the fight. And that will mean that Wixie will struggle in some of this, and I really like this answer coming through from Disguise as they're hovering the Jinx, because it should be outranging the Zeri at most crucial parts of the game, and also you have the tools to lock down a single character, kill them, get those resets, and Jinx is rapidly becoming one of the best characters for these more coordinated teams.
Yeah, we've seen it locked in across pro play consistently, but also I've been really liking it into the Zeri, specifically in the early laning phase. You can get a lot of push there and try to keep Zeri at a back foot. Later on, gets a little bit difficult. Zeri is still Zeri, but I really want to see if they are going to be flexible, or at least maybe go with something a little bit more engage heavy with DSG's bot lane. Turns out it's the Melio.
And you're creating a lot of pressure. Now, Disguised are giving up some opportunity to dictate their engagements. They're not always going to get to shoot first, but they're saying, we will shoot better. But the one thing about these compositions coming up from Disguise is they require being ahead. If you ever fall behind on a composition that cannot engage, you do not really come back in these games. And I love this coming through from AOE. They are turning up the volatility of the game very high, and this creates a lot of opportunity for Breezy and Onat in particular to lead the charge and try and put Disguise on the back foot.
If you're on the back foot, Blitzcrank becomes a menace, and you definitely don't want to be so with Disguise. I love this because you're just trying to throw a wrench into the works. And we also have to talk, this is Fearless, this is best of 3, so a lot of these picks, trying to think of what comes later. If you do have to go to a third game, right, you have 10 bans ahead of you because of the Fearless style, so I like that AoE are playing with it a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think we will look more at that, especially in Game 3. It doesn't really affect your Game 2 quite as much, but in Game 3, you really start to feel it. I'm looking forward to when we start getting the best of 5s as well. Yeah. But for now, looking at this one, I like what Disguised have. We already talked about how effectively Karma and Xinjiao work together. We kind of have to remember that Melio is kind of a second Karma in a lot of ways, right? You still have the movement speed shields, you still have the ability to do some damage, and you cleanse a lot of the issues that we would be seeing here for parry. So I really like what Disguised have. Now it's a matter of making sure that nothing crumbles, that they can play the mid game.
We're headed off onto Summoner's Rift, and we're headed to game number 1 of a fateful lower bracket matchup. DSG versus AOE. One of these team seasons ends today. Make sure you're spamming in chat who you got, DSG or AOE, and we'll see if level 1 comes out to AOE's love.
Yep. I mean, I like the look here from AOE. Not going to be finding anything right off the bat, but still, you gotta see if anybody's going to be slipping, and it is not going to come through this time. AOE do get some wards down early, but interestingly, Disguise choosing not to go for any wards off of parry, at least not especially early, and so without that information, it does mean that Disguised not going to have the same ability to control the narrative early on in the game. There's a lot of information about where you know people are, and at least AOE know that they're going to be spotted out by from a ward whenever they do the Raptors.
I look to see how quickly Young and Perry can get involved together. I think Rosethorn and Onat not necessarily the best 2v2 duo right now, but can be really strong. But if DSG can utilize theirs, it gets so scary. So we'll see how quickly they go. But speaking of DSG a little bit, and speaking of maybe some of the highs and some of the lowest lows, they literally came into the split, or at least the playoffs, beating Maryville University 2-1 in round 1, and then losing 2-1 to Team Liquid in the lower, or at least to go to the lower bracket. I mean, that's an insane run of play.
Yeah, and it's honestly really hard to try and get an exact grasp on how strong this team has been, because yes, they're clearly scaling in this game, but the question then becomes, was it a fluke that they were winning before? The fact that they're now here in the lower bracket fighting for their lives implies that it might be a little bit, and as the defending champions, you definitely want to be able to at least make your way towards those live finals. But here, Disguise are already setting themselves up with a pretty good early game start. Tenacity has to push up in the top lane. Perry is not spotted on this ward as he clears towards the top half of the map, and it will create a situation where he can't be there to go for any counter ganks if Rosethorn does try and play for the top side.
And this is a jungle matchup I'm particularly very interested in. Both these guys have a very big mind about how to approach the game, and Perry actually utilizing a nice little path. It gets charmed immediately. Wind does become lightning. 3 Talon Strike not going to be committed there even after the mantra Q, and DSG's gank goes a little bit wide.
But the gank doesn't necessarily need to get a kill for it to have been impactful. I love these mid roams, and now Perry coming through, still looking for Rosethorn. Sees that the Raptor's taken away, the red is already gone, so he ends up wasting a little bit of time, but he had the priority in the mid lane, he had the priority in the top side, and the ward that Tenacity puts down does mean that Perry will at least take away his opponent's Krugs, because Onat, even though he didn't die, didn't have to flash, he took so much damage in that engage, had to burn a lot of mana, and that will really make Onat struggle to find some priority to help out Rosethorn, which is why it's looking for something a little bit inventive on the bottom side.
And I like the inventive pathing here, at least. Gary went for that engage, or at least the invade, knowing that he still has his whole blue side jungle, and unfortunately Rosethorn can't match an invade on the other side. So it's a situation where Rosethorn's kind of left wanting there. He does end up getting the scuttle and backing there, but we'll see if that pans out to anything.
Yeah. It is worth noting here that Tenacity is setting up a beautiful wave state for himself, right? There are more minions for Zamudo, and Tenacity already has a CS lead. This is putting Zamudo in a position where he is going to have to be very careful about how he approaches things, because he should expect that Perry is still going to be on the top half of the map. Perry still has a lot of these camps to go for, and that means he's going to be nearby. It's part of why Rosethorn already comes top lane and shows. I'm expecting fireworks here in the next 60 seconds.
DSG know he's here. They know he's coming, so they can play around that. We also have both objectives coming up very soon, so a play up here can lead to a snowball.
Yeah. Perry is already here for the counter gank. Remember, Tenacity will heal up quite a bit, especially into these double melee champions.
There he is.
Rosethorn's gonna go.
They don't know. They go for the flash play.
Oh,
DSG
no.
respond in kind now. Double wind becomes lightning, and they are gonna fight right back. AOE pull the trigger, but it's thrown right back in their face. First blood for Tenacity, and we'll see if Zamudo burns his flash. He does.
Wow, great play coming through from Tenacity, knowing that he needs to instantly flash. Perry is right there in his back pocket. They get both flashes out of them, but Tenacity knows this play is coming. He was able to see them on the Krugs earlier, and that's why he already has his mouse set up behind him. So he is ready to flash as soon as he needs to, and as soon as the play comes out from Rosethorn, instant turnaround. There's no hope for Rosethorn now that he has no abilities, no crowd control left in the tank. He goes down instantly, and Zamudo knows he can't help.
And Perry has really had the pathing number of Rosethorn so far, getting that invade off, but also just making him forced into the top side of the map and being there to respond. So we'll see if some stability can come for AOE, because we talked about DSG with this composition. When they're behind, it feels really bad, but in reality also, if they're ahead, it feels really good.
It feels really good if they're ahead, and Perry going to be picking up at least one grub. How many is he going to choose to go for? It looks like he's going to go for all of them, which will help out quite a bit. Now, I'm noticing... Oh, that was on the previous patch. Never mind. Still, looking at the rest of it, we are going to have Rosethorn go for the Dragon relatively early on. His bottom lane is currently winning and does have priority down there. So Disguise, we'll see. Perry does like to go to contest the Dragon historically, but isn't going to be able to do so this time because he doesn't have prio in either of his bottom side lanes.
We do get that trade of those objectives there at least. So the Mountain Dragon secured with a little bit of bot lane prio. And for AOE, some priority needs to be given to their story so far as well. I think we talked about the craziness of DSG's history in the playoffs right now, but you know, AOE came in, they lost 2-1 to FlyQuest, but I'll take a game from FlyQuest Challengers, who have been absolutely incredible. Then they went to lower bracket and 2-0'd wildcard.
True. Sorry. I wonder if we are playing on 14.6, because the Void Grubs changed the way that they heal. They had a shield on 14.5, but they did not have a shield here on 14.6.
Maybe we can get confirmation from production there, but for now,
it actually changes the game quite a bit depending on what patch we're playing on. But yeah, sorry, you're talking about how AOE got here as well, and go ahead and tell us the rest of the story.
Yeah, I just think the loss to FlyQuest definitely didn't feel as bad as maybe it looked. But you know, coming and beating Wildcard the way they did, forcing Wildcard out of the tournament, was interesting to me because it was led a lot off of Rosethorn and a lot of the great pathing we saw from him. And this time around, I think DSG know the plan to focus on the Rosethorn and focus on that pathing. So far, it's been working.
Yeah, one of the big things that we've always known about Rosethorn is he does get aggressed upon is he is a very volatile jungler, and he's going to take a lot of damage here.
Oh, no. He's going to crash down over the wall. Easy does it, right?
Easy does it, you know, hanging out there. But because of this volatility coming through, you know that in this game where he's behind, he's not going to have nearly as much of an impact on the rest of the game. Whereas typically, I mean, we've also already seen when Rosethorn is playing something like a Kindred and can run amok in a game, he can take down any team. He was able to absolutely blow through Team Liquid Challengers last year where they had their nearly undefeated run during the regular season. Now, when he's behind, the rest of his team is going to struggle to try and support him.
That Ultra Mega Fire Kick going a little bit wide, even though it was point blank. We love the activations there. Manui going to flash right back.
Really like the respectful flashes we've been seeing from Disguise so far, but it is going to hurt Manui just having to use that flash at all. He will not be as strong for a while, but luckily, coming out across the game, we are continuing to see that Disguise, they're very much ahead, and it's almost entirely coming from this top half of the map. Tenacity and Perry continuing to live in their opponent's jungle, continuing to bully out Zamudo, because the rest of the game is basically even at this point here, Mazel. And I think with AOE falling behind, they're a team that has played very, very fast in the past. They're a team that has very much relied upon their ability to blow open some of these games. And it's looking like this might not be the recipe for success here in Game 1.
I always come back to the point of, like, Renekton is so ridiculously strong right now. Like, if you give any advantage to him in the top side, he runs away with it. He literally has like a 40 CS lead over Zamudo right now. And this was a pick that was known the entire time of the draft because they grabbed it so early. So I think introspectively looking at how to re-tackle that a little bit, because now you have an Eclipse completed for Tenacity. You, I don't think, have a response in that top side, but you've got to find a way to deal with him.
Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to one of those psychological things. I know that Zamudo is a player that can struggle when things aren't going their way, but here in the bottom side, everyone is fine. But I do want to go back to that, right? Because with those ping issues, you do tend to play way more defensively, right? You tend to play in a situation where you're not going to be making risks. And like we said, you cannot play that way into Renekton. You really need to be able to punish him quite a bit. Nasty going with the Eclipse build coming through, he's going to continue punishing Zamudo as the rest of his team is able to pick up the grubs on the top side because of how dominant he has been.
So AOE need to get something here, and if they don't, they come away way worse for wear. Poom gets out with the flash. We have the TP from Young. Meanwhile, all 6 grubs go over to DSG on the other side of the map, and AOE are left wanting.
Yeah, Plume coming down here. He's not going to have a whole lot of health, so Manui just needs to try and save things a little bit. You will give a small win nonetheless, but Manui...
Oh, the grab! He has no way out, but he does have his turret there, at least, with him. As Poom is right around the corner. He did burn his flash, so he doesn't really have any way out. They are crashing into Manui here, but Wixie's tanking the turret. He's going to have to flash. Manui's still alive. This is insanity right now as they are trying to get Poom and misses. Things are fumbling here, Joshi. They finally locked down Manui. They finally get the kill.
Oh, man, but Young is on his way down. So is Perry. This bottom lane fight is not done.
They are looking for it. I think Young might have the angle. They are spotted out, though, on both control wards. Mantra Q going to hit. They don't see.
Nice.
Oh, he gets caught in the wall. And another Q comes out from Young. They find the response to AOE's aggression.
A beautiful play coming through from the mid laner and jungler here for Disguise. They get everything that they need in the bottom side and more. They push everything back into Nasty. It's looking like he's going to get 5 plates all by himself. We'll take another look at the dive, though. This play went very badly, very quickly. The fact that Poom was sticking around, potentially saving Manui's life, but the biggest thing is I think he actually baits Manui a little bit too hard. As you see this play go through, yes, Manui's able to stay alive, and they get the traps on Wixie, so he takes a ton of damage, but I think Manui becomes too obsessed with the extra range that he gets, and it allows the rest of AOE to turn right back on top of him, and he has no mana for the rockets. But it takes AOE so much time that when Young and Perry come down here, they can't do anything. They don't have any buttons. They don't have any health to play with. And with the Q landing from Young, the flash W coming through from Perry is enough to pick him up.
Oh, I love this guy's mechanics, man. It's actually insane. Anytime you can see a little expression on the Xin Zhao, it's really fun because of the little things you can do with him. Now we see DSG using some of that momentum, some of that 3.5k lead they have to take a dragon.
Yeah, and there's no response really possible coming out from AOE. The top lane turret already fell to Tenacity. He got all 5 plates almost entirely by himself. Now he moves over to the bottom side of the map, and they are ready to play for the dragon, ready to play for the Rift-Herald. This is Disguise looking comfortable across the board. Yes, Wixie and Breezy are having a bit of a better early game going to Disguise bottom lane, but it's not looking like Timber.
Oh, Onat has some support here. Does not hit the charm, though. Maybe they could have punished Tenacity a little bit more. Onat's actually doing a good job in responding to Tenacity right now. So at least being able to kind of give and take against the Renekton in the side lane is going to be super important because Zamudo really can't answer him right now.
Yeah, and it's so good for the side of DSG overall just because now you can play with your solo laners in any lane that you really want to because you know, Renekton is going to be winning, Karma is going to be winning, and because you have so much priority in both these lanes, you're going to continue to start out Rosethorn. He's already 30 CS behind, and with all these grubs coming through, you're threatening to take these turrets super quickly.
And we wanted to focus on bot side of the map, but DSG say no. We are going to show out and show up on our top side of the map. Tenacity, Perry, Young really making it known that they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and with this Rift-Herald coming through, it doesn't feel as though AOE are going to have any of the tools. They have the X Factor, right? They have Breezy, who is still in this game. That can buy them enough time throughout the course of this in order to find a couple of those picks, turn things around when they have some Barons a little bit. And that is going to be setting ourselves up for a situation where these guys always need to respect AOE from time to time. But it is so hard. That is really the only way that AOE can look for a win in this game unless they are ready to fight for every single one of these dragons and just flip it over and over.
Hey, I do like me some burgers.
We do love some flips, but it's not a situation where
burgers.
They should. If it's burgers. And gymnastics. I think we can like that one too.
True. Just add some caveats and we'll just spend the next hour talking about everything that you could flip.
Yeah. You know, cards. Nah.
Okay. Pancakes.
Well, pancakes.
Hey, we're going. Mine are both food, so you know.
Renekton.
Oh, no.
You know, he does a spin.
That's not a flip. That's a dive.
All right,
spin.
He's like rolling dice. You can roll your crocodiles, but the rest of Disguised are still creating a ton of pressure on this one, and I think the big thing for Disguise is they were talking about scaling, and it feels as though a lot of their trust issues that they might have had earlier on the season are looking solved.
Yeah. And again, Tenacity was very confident when I talked to him about this team is scaling. They are feeling a lot more confident in each other and in their skills. And we're seeing that represented, even if they had taken a heartfelt loss over to TL. I think the fact of the matter is this team has some of the brightest pieces of our league from last year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these bright... Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Zamudo just doesn't get to play the game, man. He's like 50 CS down.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad. Oh, my God, the rocket? Oh, he had the flash. I don't know if you guys saw that. He had the flash, the freaking rocket. Oh, God. These guys are just running across this game, and it's not even based on how a lot of fights have been going. It really was just one read.
Oh, we're getting a little nasty with it here. Wixie's going to have to burn his flash and that ghost. Does stay safe. Let's take a look at that bot side.
Yeah. I mean, Disguise, they now push up. Because they have all 6 grubs, it creates so much pressure every single time they get to one of these structures. And Perry dropping the Rip Charles. He's been one of our best drivers, but it doesn't look like he wants to go to this one. It looks like it would be a one-way trip.
Little bit of a bait. Even with the 6 grubs, I'm surprised they didn't try to collapse that a little bit more. We actually look at the flash play. Oh, that was so close.
Yeah, that is brutal. It has been a very tough game overall for AOE, and again, like we said, it was so much about that very first beginning. Looking at the rest of the series, I do want to see Rosethorn on a character that is not necessarily quite as all-in, right? Rel doesn't necessarily have the comeback mechanics in a lot of ways. Like, you go for that one gank, and because it was so absolutely crushed, there's not a lot that you can really do on this champion for quite a while. Yes, you have a lot of teamfight impact, but the rest of the composition isn't set up as we look for another flash.
Oh, they got him that time, as he doesn't have any way out of that one. Rosethorn commits to the bit there. You'll love to see it, but they can't pull the trigger on it. Young is now here, and he's setting up for success. Tenacity is about to death roll his way into a team kill as they do take down Zamudo. That's huge. They get one for the big old Tenacity.
And that was after a hook landing onto Nu, and he had no flash, but there's enough safety coming out from Karma and the Melio that he is still totally alright. The Dragon is going down to Perry. Disguise take the mid lane turret, and this game is looking about as over as they come, Mazel. This is looking like AOE tried some things, they didn't go well, and now Jinx is way too strong for them to deal with.
And the thing is, he hasn't even gotten any kills. He hasn't even gotten big CS differential, but it's the way that they can play the team fights. And we've seen this so many times, Shoshi. AOE have found engages. They found moments that they get somebody out, but they cannot kill them.
Yeah, and this is what AOE have to be doing, right? They landed all of their crowd control onto Manui, and he did not care. The number of shields he had, the number of movement speed plus that he was able to get meant that he was still completely safe during that last fight. And now we're really looking at Disguise. They're going to be able to play for all the dragons. They're going to be ready to start going for this Baron buff relatively soon, and it puts the rest of Disguise in a position where they can kind of do no wrong. The only real option that AOE have is, you know, running together as one unit and just punching one side of the map really hard. But if you pick wrong, then it's way worse.
Like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, you just don't want to be Monty Moles. No beefs. Oh, God.
No. Oh, my God. Odat was caught traversing a river, and unfortunately there were crocs in that river. And poor little Onat.
Well, we'll see. It was a very different route, I think, that both these teams took in order to get to this position than we were initially expecting, right? Because I don't think a lot of people were necessarily even expecting Disguise to make it this far, right? A lot of people were looking at Disguise as a team that were really struggling during the regular season, kind of figured out a couple of the different tools across the board, but now has been very much changed. And I am getting confirmation this is important. I know I and a couple other people had some big questions about how the grubs were looking, but it does look as though it was just a visual change that has gone through on the tournament realm, and everything else seems to still be correct for 14.5, but appreciate everybody who's looking out for that.
Very. It's grabbed again by Breezy, but the hooks aren't really doing much at this point. They are so far ahead. 5,000 gold up. And this is the threat, and why I've been really liking the adaptation of the double enchanter comps into 14.5, but also just in general around the league and around the world.
Yeah. I mean, the double enchanters make characters like Xin Zhao so hard to play against, especially when they have a lead. Like, you see that he, Poom took more damage than Perry did. It's just okay. So now it's a matter of time until Disguise feel ready to start the Baron, and it was a lot shorter than I was expecting. They have a lot of vision control. They're just trying to bait people in order to do damage to them.
The AOE consistently trying to just meatball comp this because they are far behind, right? And they do have some saving grace in that regard. If we start getting to third item, I feel like for Wixie, we'll really get a turn on in damage and at least the team fight potential for AOE. But they are so far behind, DSG can continue lapping up every objective they need.
Yeah. This is very funny. You do not see 80 carries at this level of play just going for the opposing blue buff by themselves, but they're still able to do it at this point because Manui's team has so much control. There are no vision wards at all coming out from AOE beyond the river. There's just a couple in the Baron Pit, and that is all that the guys have to work with. And you're constantly worried, right? Zamudo's now down 70 CS in the bottom lane, and he's still attackable, right? He is a very possible dive target, and there's so much attention from AOE on the far side of the map that Tenacity and Perry will get themselves a kill apiece by taking down this structure.
And because there's really no way for AOE to get a response down here, they just kind of have to let it go and hope they get stuff on the other side of the map. Unfortunately, they were unable to, but they were both backing in synchronicity. Looks like they want to go for a top lane play.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to try. Young is fairly resilient here. Has still got a small lead over Ona. It is worth noting that Nasty 3,000 gold over his lane opponent from this position. And yeah, AOE, I love the fact that they're still trying things, but I think it's only a matter of time before Disguise just get tired of this game going on and say, all right, we've had enough fun. It's time to go on to the next one.
They really are in sync. I will give them that. Oh, Nat got seen. Anyways, he's on.
Okay.
Oh, Tenacity takes the bait. Is this it? Stop the back one more time. Oh, they don't feel like they can take Tenacity.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't think they could
He's
take
a big
Tenacity
croc,
either.
I mean, you know.
He is a big croc.
I think that's the most
I
curious
can't
thing.
finish the
Yeah, don't
way,
do it. Though. I was
I
gonna
can't
cut
finish
you
it
off.
the way I wanted to.
Don't worry about it. I got you, boo-boo.
Yeah.
Tenacity is 3 items up, and I think this has been a bit of a renaissance towards the end of the season for him. I think in the beginning we were still question marking, is this guy going to have the same impact that he's had in past, literally dominating the league? He wasn't playing, at least competitively. He was over in Korea, being able to stream and try to content creation, but said he wanted to feel like a competitor again and come back into it. And I feel like he's had a lot of confidence being built over time here.
Yeah, and confidence is everything in this game. It does look like Disguise are going to be picking up another dragon for themselves, but like you were calling out before, we are getting closer and closer to AoE getting 3 items onto Wixie, which gives them, some chances. It's not a great chance, but it is something.
So you're saying there's a chance. That's a lot of mics, though. A lot of Twitch chatters. Hey, see.
A lot of Twitch chatters.
Chat, that's you. That's you out there. You're doing stuff.
You're doing stuff.
But I think there's not much that AoE can try to get. They keep trying to grab a little bit while DSG aren't looking. They're like the sneaky males of the Sea Lions. They're just trying to get a little bit of something everywhere. AoE just trying to make something happen against Tenacity. But Zamudo, they realize they can't take Tenacity. He's about to take a 2v1 up there, even with the Mega Death Rocket coming across. Zamudo trying to scrap his way out of this one. I don't know if he can, though. He's got the speed. He's got the wings. But Onat, he's going to go Spirit Rush out of there. So everything used by AoE to escape. And that leaves DSG right in front of the Baron Pit.
Yeah, that's a perfect play here coming through from DSG. They're going to be forcing numbers away. Onat just used his teleport and his ult, and now Rosethorn going to try and do something, but he's got to get through the Crocodile first. Teleport comes through from Zamudo. This is the Hail Mary.
It's the Hail Mary. He's spotted out. He doesn't have much to say, but he's a body that he can throw into them.
And he's seen.
They do know that he's there, and they're going to flash for him. He immediately flashes back. Wind becomes lightning, goes wide. DSG are pulled off of the Baron. So honestly, AoE get away with what they wanted.
That's fantastic coming through from AoE. It does feel as though Disguise might not recognize just how far ahead they actually are. As Perry gets hooked, doesn't matter. All right, good talk, good talk. I think if Disguise got to see the scoreboard like we do, they would have taken that fight, right? But they probably don't realize quite how far ahead they actually are just because of, the fact that when you're in the game, you don't get to see all the different things add up. You kind of have to have an intuition, and if you haven't really fought in a while, it's hard to know, right? Manui should feel very, very strong, but he hasn't actually really hit champions in a while, so it's like, I I think my damage is good, but I don't want to find out if I'm wrong.
It's also just insane to me how far ahead Perry and Tenacity have gotten holistically in this game. Consistently like 50 to 70 CS above their opponent. And DSG are going to utilize some of that 7K lead to force AOE around the Baron once again.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even look as though AOE is going to have a bit of a response this time. They don't know it's happening, right? It's just Perry and Manui going to be taking it down, and Zamudo might come over in time, but the blue trinket goes.
We have a pause, unfortunately, as is with
I feel like the
remote
entire game has
gameplay.
been paused for a while, you know? Where's my blood?
DSG already spilled it all over the ground, so you know.
That's fair.
It's a little bit of one-sided diff right now, at least in terms of DSG having a lot of advantage. And again, I think it's been building to this for DSG. Even if they find themselves in the lower bracket, that TL matchup was a hard-fought one. And I think we've seen, again, Tenacity's quote in scaling into the playoffs. We've seen them really come together. I know that's been a primary focus for this DSG roster.
Yeah, and I think it has really been showcasing itself, even though their bottom lane fell behind a little bit coming out from the side of going down to Wixie and Breezy. They aren't collapsing, right? This is kind of what we were expecting when they played up against Maryville originally. We were kind of expecting Scary Jerry and Zyko to run them over, and that has not been happening, which was a bit of an issue for them earlier on in the season. It did not look like Manui and Poom trusted each other, but that trust is very clearly there now. They're able to play these dives out rather well. They're able to move around the map, and I feel as though the priority that Tenacity and Young have been generating have been better played around by Perry. He's been able to go for more of these invades in order to really put AOE in the back foot.
That's where I got to turn my attention over to Wixie Breezy. I think Breezy has been attempting on the Blitzcrank to have a lot of influence, and they are just so far behind. He hits the hooks, but you can't kill who he hooks, so the fish just gets off the line every single time, and you've got to find a way to stick that. And right, we were talking about Wixie coming on 3 items. That is super important. But you've got to find stability if you want to take any team fights. And right now, DSG are just steaming full force ahead. If AOE can get in here,
he gets it! Oh, he's safe!
Is just better, baby! He gets the Baron, but he will fall, and he stays in the game with the steal.
Oh, man. You see Perry goes for the ultimate to try and knock him out, but there is time in between to get this smite off from Rosethorn, and that is huge. Seeing it come through, yeah, he just barely gets over the wall, instantly gets knocked right on back, and there is no response really from Disguise. Yes, you take down Rosethorn with a rally cry Baron buff in AoE's hands. Gets them 1,000 gold right off the bat, and now Disguise, they're going to have to switch their plan around. They're going to have to play around the upcoming Infernal Soul, but that is going to be another opportunity for Rosethorn to flip it again.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. He literally just like got to dip his head into the pit and was like, okay, bye. It's like, cool, I got the in range to smite it. We did as well finally get that 3rd item for Manui, so DSG are very strong, and they only have another minute and a half till an Infernal Soul is on the board for them.
That Infernal Soul will be a big opportunity. Manui, in particular, is rapidly becoming a potential main character for this game, and Tenacity, he knows people are up here.
I want to see if he can take this, honestly. He's got 7 levels on Breezy, by the way.
That's a lot of levels. I think people will be surprised at how much damage the Baron buff minions actually do, and so he's definitely making sure to wait until people back away. Doesn't have to fight into that, and Disguised, they don't need to take any risks before this Infernal Dragon. They just need to make sure they don't make the same mistake by letting Rosethorn get to the pit in the first place. And being on the blue side, it's definitely harder for Rosethorn to get in, and so now Tenacity already comes down. They're taking control of the mid lane. It's just taking a little bit more time because of this Baron buff.
Breezy maybe looking for a rocket grab on the correct member at least, but they are being funneled into a choke point now. Perry's going to pop that Crescent Guard. Young coming up with the mantra. They actually got a decent engage. Onto the backline goes Perry, and he immediately goes down. This is a really good fight from AoE. They can't get a charm off from Monet because it's not back on cooldown, but they pick off Perry.
A potentially huge throw coming through from Perry right there, jumping onto Zamudo again, and then baiting the rest of the team into a fight in a corridor where Wixie was completely safe the entire time. Now Disguise, they might actually have to give up some pressure. Poom having to flash away. They're going to have to try and come in for a re-engage without their jungler and missing some crucial ultimates.
Do you feel that? It feels like the winds have changed as AOE is starting to gain momentum. Manui misses the rocket. Tenacity's still big, but they've got to be able to take him down if they want any sake in this fight. The Dragon's getting low. DSG moving in. Nice hook on the Tenacity. They get him. That Croc is made into skin boots. And now DSG, they're trying to poke their way onto AOE, but the Dragon is about half health. Manui's still very strong. And AOE, they're giving up the fight right now. They go in.
Oh, the
they
charm.
get Manui. Breath of Life goes through, but Zamudo's looking big. He gets a Q sweet spot, but he's going to go down anyways. They get the Dragon. They try to get out with the package. They are being surrounded by sharks, though, and they might have toast on their backs. Oned is down. Oh, and Young's going to flash over, blast cone over, and maybe even just go down, too. Oh, my goodness. Wixie is firing like a lightning laser as Perry has finally arrived. A triple kill had gone down to AOE, but it'll be responded in kind by DSG.
Even though we see more members go down here on both sides, it is a huge gold swing in favor of AOE. They get the Dragon, which has the objective bounty. They get some crucial shutdowns coming through here as well. And this Charm, even though it doesn't land the hook, still sets them up to have time to finish off the Dragon. That gives them a lot of space. And Zamudo dies far enough back that Manui does not reset. He does not continue to get more resets onto the rest of the team. And they have to overextend here in order to get the rest of the fight to go through. And these members don't die quickly. Wixie's able to flash in and trade his life for some big money going right on over to his pocket.
700 smackaroos right there. That's a lot of big money. I am emboldened by Young going over the wall and then blast coding into 3 members, but hey, sometimes you just got to have a little bit of fun with it. DSG, they have gotten their lead chunked a little bit, and they have to delay their soul. They are still in commanding fashion.
It is a very tough position at this point for Disguise, right? When you are starting to lose your confidence in some of these plays, it becomes very difficult to find your way onto Wixie, who's now level 16, has 4 items and boots completed at this point. Wixie does a lot of damage, and you have to be very careful how you approach him. We saw that the E earlier from Perry onto Zamudo might have put them in a position where they are no longer able to take the same fights they were just a couple of minutes ago, and it kind of goes back to that teleport minutes and minutes ago from Zamudo to get Disguise off of the Baron buff in the first place, buying time for Rosar to take away the Baron. And every single one of these small mistakes coming through from Disguise are stacking up to a position where AOE are now actually playing for this game.
Yeah, and the crazy part is you might have had 70 plus CS leads in top and jungle, but when you get to a point where items are being fully built, right, that doesn't matter. It comes down to execution, and we've seen DSG flub that just a few times now, giving AOE a window. Speaking of windows, you got a huge gold advantage by Wixie. He's going to be really close to a full build here.
Yeah. I also want to point out that one of the big things about Disguise composition that we talked about at the very beginning is starting to come to fruition. They do not have good engage tools. They're relying on AOE coming in. That means Disguise has to play a very strong pressure game, and they're going to be constantly at risk of this.
They grab Perry. Crescent Guard comes through, though. He's going to block a lot of damage. Dominus also got popped, so a couple big ultis there utilized by DSG.
Yeah, that is really big from the side of AOE. Getting that hook, and then I love the discipline to immediately fall back, saying, hey, we can't kill this guy. We need to do something else. Does set themselves up for another hook, having more impact later on. And we're starting to run out of opportunities for Disguise. I'm starting to look at teleport flags from Tenacity as their main way to get these things started, because they have taken everything outside of the base. Going back to try and split push on the bottom side from Tenacity is not possible when he doesn't have a teleport. He can't push up on the top side when so much pressure is coming out from the top side of AOE. This is where Disguise has faltered so much during the regular season. When they get pushed this late into the game, they start running out of opportunities, and this is where it starts to feel as though some of the desperation starts to sink in.
This is much more like it between these two teams, it feels like. That first half of the game, it felt very one-sided, but now AOE have found a lot of their confidence back, and it only took about 30 minutes in the game. Now, Zamudo has a flank. They have Young on the other side. Tenacity is looking to get the blast cone usage there, trying to find his own flank. We got flanks on flangles, and they're just going to go in. Tenacity goes over the wall, finds Onat, and he's going to get the spin to win right here. They can't get Onat, though. He's taking away. The slice and dice will get him the kill. Now DSG, they'll move back onto the Baron. The flash, though, moving out of the rocket grab for Breezy. Now AOE actually have to move completely away from this pit.
But still, for the price of Onat, they reset the Baron. That might give time for Rosethorn to come through. No, AOE are committing to the other side of the map. Remember, Dragon is spawning here in 15 seconds. That'll be the soul for Disguise, but they pass the damage check. They're able to take down this Baron and instantly move towards the bottom side of the map, but AOE is trying to set a trap. It's not going to work.
Breezy does not have enough health here. He wants to get a grab. They are fully going in. Now, poof, gone. That's a big one. And Breezy immediately getting himself out of there, knowing that he was about to be turned into chopped liver. Dragon is started by AOE.
Onat is up in 10 seconds, has a teleport and his ultimate, but he doesn't have any great teleport wards. He does have to go back fairly far.
Over the wall. Zamudo's got to go. His team is getting engaged on. You got to get in there. As Tenacity has just made mincemeat of your back line. Wixie takes him out, and now Zamudo is the front line. He's trying to heal the Q sweet spots there. The flash play. Zamudo's trying to make a comeback in this game as AOE do respond, but they lose the Infernal Soul to DSG.
The soul goes over, but still, the Baron buff is mostly stopped here for Disguise. It buys more and more time here for AOE to continue scaling into this game. Wixie should be very close to his third item from this position, but I didn't think the trap would work, but they got boom. They kill him instantly. It doesn't matter that you're behind in gold. We can still blow up all these members, but both these top laners playing big roles in this last team fight, like you called out. Tenacity getting hooked. Tries to find his way onto Wixie. It's his only way to really play. But Manui also goes down to Zamudo, who then instantly heals his entire health bar in a single auto attack. But AOE, they have the tools to start fighting back.
The double Sundered Sky procs there. Oh my god, it heals so much. And now Zamudo has a say in this game. We cannot say that for the first 3/4 of the game itself, but he has come into fruition as an Aatrox looking for the backline.
Yeah, and with this Baron buff halfway gone, 2/3 gone, Disguised is actually negative in gold overall. As Disguised, the game has really slipped out of their hands. They still have all the same tools they used to, but it's so much harder to get them through now that Breezy, finding hooks, actually can kill members. He's wait. Look how far forward he's waiting just to see if somebody walks to the wrong place.
Ooh, almost catching Manui there too, but it realizes he has the rest of DSG right behind him. And we're in a state of game where one slip up can mean more of that gold lead going back over to AOE. And this is, again, that issue of not having engage, having to rely on AOE overstepping or misstepping. DSG really wanting to have some sort of engage. I think that's a rightful choice, at least for AOE, to focus them in that first draft as well.
Yeah, you also have to see just like how much, respect Disguised you're giving to Breezy. When you have to start respecting the Blitzcrank, that's when you know that the game has seriously changed from what it was looking like before. And now Disguised, they're still moving up as a group, but they only have 10 seconds left of this Baron.
Oh, Perry. The blast code. He's trying to get to the other one here. He can't do it. Perry just throwing his life away.
That's the second time that Perry has put himself in a bad spot this game. That is tragic. It's not going to mean a whole lot, but it does mean that Baron goes completely to waste. And Disguised, even though they're sitting on a gold lead still, cannot push in the interim before the Elder Dragon. The Baron buff and the Elder Dragon only spawning at about the same time, but that's going to be giving AOE an opportunity to start taking away some of these structures. And even the game believes that it's not that bad for AOE. This 2,500 gold lead means that there are no objective bounties left. Manui!
Oh, Manui gets caught. He doesn't have flash. He has no way out. Wixie is on a rampage.
And that's going to be even more coming through. The top lane turret already goes down. AOE are finding the hooks they need. They're finding the plays. Breeze is randomly throwing hooks over the wall and see if he can find someone. That'll be another structure going down. And this will be AOE opening up the sky space.
And we got to take a spotlight back to Wixie. We set him up at the very beginning. This 2v2, the strength that Wixie has shown, his revenge arc. That man is 8-2 on the Zeri now. And he has been an undersung strong current, maybe a riptide current for AOE so far in this game.
We'll see. Here comes the charm.
The point blank flash. They actually get the hook too. They can't get the kill on the parry though. He has that crescent guard popped and he gets out alive. AOE, they try to bite off a little bit of DSG, but they can't get it.
Can't get it, and that does mean that Midui will be responding before the next thing happens. As Sky is giving respect to any potential plays, any cheeky plays from AOE, but Tenacity, it's going to be okay.
They aren't going to take him out just yet. They have been the team that's been playing around with those back timings a lot, trying to find those little plays because they realize how influential it can be. They have about 1:45, a little bit less so for the Elder. Under a minute for another Baron, so we're about to get the dance here.
But now we're going to see exactly how these two teams prioritize things. You got to know this unfortunately has not been one of Perry's best games. He got baited by Zamudio, he got baited by Rosestar, and Rosestar outsmited him. He had a very good early game, but unfortunately after that, it has been a situation where AOE has been able to prey on his mistakes. And we get to see now, because it feels as though AOE, despite being down in gold, are going to be dictating how these two teams are playing around these objectives. They are here first. They have the Blitzcrank. They have the vision control. With 30 seconds left until the Baron, AOE have decided that it is the Baron that we're going to be playing around.
And again, DSG do not have a way of forcing a fight. They have to just walk themselves into AOE. And you do not want to do that against this composition. You see how reserved they're playing in the mid lane. AOE, they now have the forward hand. They now can force the fight onto the Baron if they want to.
But they don't have the biggest window in order to just sit here, right? If these guys have an opportunity to start moving in...
Wait. Young just back. They have an opportunity here. The TP is going to be coming in. So Crescent Guard used preemptively because they were a bit mistimed.
Yeah, and this does set up a situation where AOE, they still need to do something because Disguise will take the Elder Dragon very quickly if given the opportunity to do so.
This is a heck of a tense moment here. Tenacity going in over on the side, slicing, dicing his way out. Dragon spawns. Elder Dragon can mean the difference between a Game 1 win and a Game 1 loss, and we see both teams moving over there.
Yeah, we're buying a lot of time here for Disguise. They are setting things up. They're taking vision control. Tenacity.
Oh, the charm missing. That's huge. Rosethorn is getting chunked right now, so DSG are an added advantage.
Lots of ultimates traded back and forth. Onat uses his. The charm misses again. But now, Disguise,
they can't do it.
They're ready to start up this Elder Dragon, and AOE never started hitting the Baron. Disguise now have the tools.
Zamudio is on his way. He will TP into the middle of the fight. Rosethorn's almost already gone. He uses the crash down. Half health for the Elder. Can Rosethorn do it again? Lightning crash in. They go in.
Oh, they got it!
He's secured by Zamudio of all people. And now those wings start feeding. And AOE, they take the lead for the first time in the game. 41.5 minutes in. It's an area of effect. And DSG had no hope.
Oh my God.
Burn, baby, burn!
That is the second time this game that a crucial objective has been stolen by AOE. Rosethor got the first one. Zamudio gets the second. The Elder Dragon kills 4 on the side of Disguise. And with only Poom left, there's no way that AOE should be able to take this game. But that is the world we're living in.
Are you not entertained? My God, we say that all the time in NACL. It took 40 minutes for AOE to take the advantage in the game, and they turn it on its head and flip it straight into DSG. 1-0 lead for Area of Effect.
I can't believe that
I'm
AOE
stunned,
were able to win this
man.
game. This is the kind of game that you do not get to see very often, and also it's a crazy spot. We're going to take another look at this last fight one more time, see exactly how Zamudio steals the Elder Dragon away, because it changes this fight almost entirely. Disguise are setting things up, and it's all about how the smite comes through. But as Zamudio goes in, how much damage? Oh,
no!
1241.
36 is what I saw.
Yeah, that is so unlucky coming through. Parry ever so slightly early gives the auto attack to Zamudio to take it down. What a brutal game.
God, DSG,
Losing.
We talked about confidence being so important. DSG are going to be kicking themselves after that game. Oh my goodness. I
just
hope
have to say,
they can get themselves back in a good mindset, because that is a loss that you definitely don't want to be taking when your life is on the line for spring. AOE come out in full force and show us just how it's done. 40 minutes into the game, we'll see if DSG can bounce back in game 2 after a short break.
They said it couldn't be done. They said the world would never accept a cookie this long. Or a churro, and probably not a pretzel either. They also said, under no circumstances should those really long and delicious treats be wildly affordable. To which we said, but we already made them. And they are. Introducing the incredible new foot-long sidekicks. Get one at Subway today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, next up in some news, it was announced that NACA Finals will be live here in the Riot Games Arena, which is obviously a pretty big deal because this could be the first time some of these players are actually taken to the stage.
I am so pumped for this. To get to see players experience their first ever game on stage is incredible. You know, kind of learning what it's like.
What's NACL?
So, speaking of Magic, Cubby, I hear you worked some to get NACL Finals live somehow.
Yeah, team effort. But you know what? We're going back to the studio on April 1st for our live finals. You can get tickets now, and there's even going to be an award show to go along with it.
So you know what's interesting, Emily? Not only are they bringing back the most valuable prospect, but they're introducing a new slew of awards for the players and teams also to vote on.
Yeah, so looking at the list, there's also going to be a most improved player and a rookie of the split award, and they're voting for all pros. It's kind of like we do in the LCS, so it'll feel a little more familiar, I guess.
Yeah, NACL is going to be highlighting more players for their performance over the last split, and I think that's going to be awesome.
I already know who my MVP is, but now I gotta think about all those other awards too.
And also, finals are live, so we could all go technically and see the players.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool that they opened up the voting for the awards to the teams and the players as well.
Yeah, even the NACL co-streamers are going to get a chance to fill out their ballots this year. It's awesome to see so many different community members involved.
Yo, Eric, they just announced that NACL finals are live and we can get tickets.
Oh, sick. Playoffs are on right now. Put it on.
Let's go.